Hey everyone, I'm Ephraim225, and I'm going to give my first impressions on a new game I picked up. This is WarGroove by the developers of Starbound. It is a strategy game that is heavily inspired by Advance Wars, and you all know I love Advance Wars. So, yeah, I was really happy to pick this up. It took a while for it to get released, so I had to wait a little bit longer than anticipated for a new Advance Wars type game to come out. But hey, it's out now, and I like what I see so far. So I'm going to dive right into a single-player mission. For single-player, there's the campaign mode. There's an arcade mode where you just go through a bunch of random versus maps with a computer. And there are puzzle maps, which I presume are just puzzles. You know. So the main campaign has about 20 missions, and there are also about 10 side missions. I don't think those are the exact numbers, but they're probably pretty close. So that's nice. You get a bunch of extra maps to play through if you want to see what other challenges are there. And the extra missions, they mainly involve commanders other than the main ones. So that's actually really nice. Gives some attention to the other commanders besides the main characters. I don't care about the story. So the main gimmick of WarGroove are the hero units, or commander units. I don't know what they're called. I just say hero units. So the hero units, they are basically souped up powerful infantry units. And they also have the CO powers of WarGroove, which are called grooves. Hence the name, I suppose. They are not at all like CO units from Days of Ruin. They don't have a CO zone or anything. They just have the CO powers, or grooves rather. Yeah, I mix up my terminology quite often. So, the cool thing is, if you lose your hero unit, you instantly lose the game. So, you want to protect them, but you also don't want to just leave them alone, because you have to make good use of the CO powers, or grooves, excuse me, if you want to win in this game. So that's actually pretty cool. And the units in this game, all of the units are basically they have an Advance Wars equivalent. Here's an infantry unit, here's a mech, here's a recon. It's a doggy! This is the best. You can have an army of dogs, and one of the commanders is a dog too, so that's epic. Here's an APC. Here's an anti-air. I don't know what alchemy has to do with anti-air. And the alchemist can actually heal other units for a pretty hefty cost, so I tend not to use the healing power. It's actually cheaper to get them to a building. And here we have the archer, or the artillery, and these guys can actually move and fire in the same turn. But you see how it says critical hit when stationary? All units in this game have a condition under which they do extra damage, which is called a critical hit. So if the archer just sits still and fires from its initial position, that's a crit. So basically, you're getting rewarded for being lazy by not moving. Nah, I'm kidding. So here's a tank, it's a knight, it's a cavalry, etc. This is a missile, but it can also fire at ground units for minimal damage. It gets a crit when it's at minimum range. I don't know if anyone's ever gotten a crit with a ballista before. See, that's the thing about critical hits, is that you don't really need to go out of your way to get them. You could live without them, but it's a nice reward for, getting that critical hit in. This is the equivalent to the rocket. It gets a critical hit when you fire at something 5 spaces away, which is the maximum range. The ballista gets a critical hit for firing at a unit at minimum range. Maybe that's meant for ground units, because I'm pretty sure this thing one-hit kills all air units anyways. Anyways, this map starts out a little slow. One of the problems I have with the WarGroove campaign in general is that most of the maps are actually very, very slow. It'll take several turns to complete. Even just to get to the point of this map, which is these 2 units here, you have to get the hero unit up here in order to recruit these 2 units. That's a special gimmick of the mission. And I suppose I could have used a wagon to carry him up there, but there's actually a much easier way to deal with this. Also, the battle copters are harpies. Well, at least for the red faction, they are. A really cool thing this game does is that every faction has, like, all of their units look and basically are different. Because, like, for the yellow faction, they're heavily based on Japan, like Yellow Comet was. So their dogs are actually Shiba Inus. And they have... what do they have? It doesn't say what the unit's name is. But I know that... let's see, they have a C unit that's based on a Kappa. Yeah, they're very Japan. So that's pretty cool. I actually haven't gotten to wherever the Navy units are given out yet, because like there's one map that's really tripping me up right now. So the way buildings work is pretty interesting. If one of your infantry units comes across a neutral building, they can capture it in one turn. So Sammy's useless now. But you'll notice that there's a number next to the building. That's how many hit points the building has. Buildings now have hit points, and you can attack them and do damage, and they can actually counter back, which sounds weird. But whenever you want to repair or heal a unit, not only does that cost some hit points, not only does that cost some money, it will also take the hit points away from the building, but you can actually heal a unit all in one turn, and you can see that the building's hit points are coming back. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of a trade-off, because in Advance Wars you had to like sit still for several turns while the unit was repairing, but in WarGroove you kind of don't, but there's a trade-off for it. You have to spend all that money up front, and it makes the building a little bit vulnerable. So let's see here. The enemies are getting close, so I have to be careful here. I'll just sit in the forest and wait for them. This map in particular is actually vulnerable to a very silly trick, because I mentioned that in order to capture a building from the enemy, you have to destroy it, which turns it into a neutral building, and then you can move in for the capture. But if your headquarters are destroyed, then you lose instantly. You can see that on this map, the headquarters are like very vulnerable to air attack. So yeah, the AI doesn't really... The AI is not completely stupid, but I would say that they have a problem with defending their headquarters, or very important locations, because they don't see any point in keeping a unit near here. Because like they have to go all the way around here, and this is actually one of the shorter maps as a result of that HQ being vulnerable. So we're just going to get in here, and now we have a couple of golems. These are like medium tanks. They're introduced in this map actually, and they're very, very strong. So they should be able to handle this incoming wave of enemies. Going to probably let that dog just waltz right in and get killed. Yeah, actually, maybe the dogs aren't as awesome as I thought, because you can kill them now. I also think it's interesting that if you have like multiple infantry, for example, like you can see that the individual infantry sprites, there are little differences between them. And for these harpies, there are actually a lot of differences between these individual harpy sprites, or maybe it's just... It could be just the color palette, I don't know. But I think that's a cool little detail. Right, so... Just going to fly over to that HQ and take it. This map would probably be a little bit lengthy if I did not do it this way, so sorry if you wanted to see it played the normal way. Alright. So now we get some actual combat. And we're probably going to let the golems do a majority of the fighting. because you don't get a lot of money. The buildings that produce the units that you select, they don't actually give you any money. It's just these villages, and it's always 100 gold per village. So there's a little bit more control over how many units like each player can build, basically. So we're going to get rid of their ballista, even though it's nowhere near any of the air units I've got. Unit joining is also not an option, which I think is kind of unfortunate, but whatever. Alright, so I'm going to heal up my unit here. You can see that it dropped the building down to 2 hit points, but now the unit is at full hit points. Kinda nice, I'd say. Should probably... Oh, the AI actually did get a harpy of their own here. So I guess I'll have to have mine hang back until it goes away. Let's see here. I want an archer. I get the unit names confused because they're different between factions. Like, there's a faction of zombies, and they have, like, skeletons and stuff, so that was pretty cool. And there's a faction of plant people, so it's basically... So, basically, this game is a sequel to Plants vs. Zombies. Oh, I didn't expect that. That's a fighter. How did that get there? I didn't expect that. Well, I guess I could hope for the best. The AI has never built a fighter there. That is very strange. Well, I'll deal with it one way or the other. Let's see. Also, if you're a fan of Starbound, like, this is a... There's a bunch of little nods to Starbound in this game. Now, I never really got into Starbound, so, like... I didn't catch the references, but it doesn't really matter too much. You don't, like, need to play Starbound in order to get it, as it were. Let's see here. I want to show off a CO power before this video is over with. Ouch, one hit KO. Oh well. I guess I could have played this a lot better. I shouldn't have just, like, sent a bunch of air units over here. But, like, I really didn't expect the AI to actually build an anti-air unit there. Like, they didn't do it on my previous run. So, I don't know. Well, I suppose we could go for the enemy commander instead. Change tactics. Go for the other victory condition. Let's see, let's get over... I'd better get rid of their golem before I go any further with mine. Capture this. Heal him up. Get rid of him. Being able to move and fire in the same turn is very, very invigorating. Like, you have no idea how much I've had to, like, suffer with just sitting there in Advance Wars. Oh, my commander is getting close to biting the dust, so better do something there. Need to get him out of the line of fire. And we can pull out his groove right now. This is one of the lesser grooves. What it does is it places this crystal. Anything within the crystal has better defense. Like, on your side, of course. All of the grooves are actually really weird and interesting powers. Like, there's one that will spawn a unit anywhere you want, but you have to pay for the unit. And that's actually one of the more overpowered grooves, according to the player base. And that's probably true. The dog commander can actually give up to 4 units an extra turn, like a Fire Emblem Dancer. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, the dog's gotta be the most overpowered thing ever. Well, he actually is not. So the grooves are a little strange, but they are pretty unique. Like, the whole groove thing is actually a very unique idea for a game like this. So it's very nice. Yeah, it's a very nice thing, that's what I'll say. It's very, very nice. It's probably sounded very strange. Alright, so we've got to catch up to that enemy commander before he gets comfortable in his little place there. Yeah, I did mention that the maps take a little while. I'm already up to like 20 minutes. But hey. Yeah, I'll take anything over, wow, I have a lot of money. Let's see here. Probably need... Oh yeah, and if they really want a map like this to be this long, they should probably like put a neutral barracks or something in the middle here, just so I'm building all of my units from there and not having to like look at all of this. This is actually really concentrated. Like, all of the barracks and towers and stuff are concentrated here, and there's like 3 enemy barracks and I've only got 1. What is this map design actually? But it's fine, because this game actually has built-in custom campaigns. Like, you can make your own campaign or your own maps or anything. See, that's another thing that I really like about this game, because the designers recognize the value in user-created content for a game like this. I would say that Advance Wars like got really huge precisely because of user-created content, like all of the maps and everything. Like, aside from the gameplay just being really, really good, of course. I would say that custom content was integral to Advance Wars getting this big. So, yeah, that's really good on the developer to recognize the value of custom content. And I actually am thinking I should make my own campaign in this, just because, like, I'm honestly dissatisfied with the built-in campaign on its own. I think they could have done a lot better, just out of the missions I've played so far. I am stuck halfway through. I didn't get to the part where there are Navy units, so who knows if the Navy is actually good in WarGroove. And I have heard that it actually is better done than in Advance Wars, because you don't have, like, first of all, the Navy units I've heard are cheaper than they are in Advance Wars. Because, like, a big problem with Advance Wars Navy is that the units are way too expensive to be worth anything, or to the point that they are painful to use. So that's a good thing. And I've also heard that the sea to land interactions are better, which would also be a huge plus. So, you know, can't wait to get there. Or I could probably just try them out in a custom map myself. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about WarGroove so far, really.